Romeo and Juliet, Part 4. The Palace of Dim Night. Friar Lawrence had done his best for the young lovers, and he carried out his scheme with speed and vigilance. But an unfortunate accident prevented the letters he wrote to Romeo ever reaching their destination. The friar to whom he entrusted them went to find a brother friar of their order to go with him. This man was occupied in visiting the sick. The plague was then raging in Verona, and the searchers of the town, finding Friar John and his companion, and suspecting they were both in a house where the pestilence was, sealed up the doors and refused to let them forth. Thus Friar John never got to Mantua at all, and he was even unable to forward the letter to Romeo or to return it to Friar Lawrence, so fearful was everyone of infection. On his release, 2 days later, he hurried back to the cell of Friar Lawrence, and the latter learnt with dismay how his plan had failed. There was only one thing to be done. He must go to the vault alone, to be there when Juliet awakened, for in 3 hours' time the power of the sleeping potion would be exhausted. Though Friar Lawrence's message never got to Romeo, other tidings of sadder import reached him. When Romeo had started for Mantua, he left his servant Balthazar to follow him later with all news. Balthazar, of course, like all Verona, had heard of the tragedy at the Capulet's house, and never doubted the truth of Juliet's death. At the moment he reached Mantua, it happened that Romeo was in the highest spirits. An unaccustomed lightness of heart seemed that day to have taken possession of him. As he strolled through the streets of Mantua just before Balthazar's arrival, Romeo was musing happily over a dream of good omen that he had had the night before. "My dream foretells some joyful news at hand," he thought. "I dreamt my lady came and found me dead. Strange dream that gives a dead man leave to think, and breathes such life with kisses on my lips that I revived, and was an emperor. Ah me, how sweet is love itself, when but love's shadows are so rich in joy." At that moment Balthazar appeared, just as he had come off his journey. Romeo's heart leapt up anew at the sight of him. "News from Verona," he cried. "How now, Balthazar? Do you not bring me letters from the friar? How doth my lady? Is my father well? How fares my Juliet? I ask that again, for nothing can be ill if she be well." Balthazar bowed his head and spoke sadly and solemnly. "Then she is well, and nothing can be ill. Her body sleeps in Capulet's monument, and her immortal part with angels lives. I saw her laid low in her kindred's vault, and took post at once to tell it you. Oh, pardon me for bringing this ill news, since you left it for my office, sir." Stunned by the blow, Romeo made no loud outcry. Those who are stricken to the heart have no power to bewail their misery. "Is it even so? Then I defy you, stars," was all he said when he heard of the fatal tidings. The boyish turbulence, the violent outpourings of grief, the noisy despair that had followed his former woes found no voice in his present calamity. His was the calmness of one who knows that for him all hope is over. "You know my lodging. Get me ink and paper," he said to Balthazar, "and hire post-horses. I will hence tonight." "I do beseech you, sir, have patience," said the serving man. "Your looks are wild and pale, and import some misadventure." "Tush, you are deceived," said Romeo. "Leave me, and do the thing I bid you do. Have you no letters to me from the friar?" "No, my good lord." "No matter. Get you gone, and hire those horses. I'll be with you directly." Romeo's resolution was taken. Juliet was dead. Well, he would die too. Now for the means. Then Romeo remembered that near the very spot where he was standing dwelt an old apothecary, a meagre wretch wasted with misery and famine, whose sordid little shop contained a few musty odds and ends of rubbish, thinly scattered to make up a show. Noting his penury when he had first seen him, Romeo had said to himself, "Now, if a man needed a poison whose sale would be instant death in Mantua, here lives a caitiff wretch who would sell it to him." That thought had only been the forerunner of his present need, and now he found that, won over by the handsome bribe offered, the starving apothecary could indeed supply him with a fatal drug of deadly power. The hour of awakening had not yet come, and Juliet still slept peacefully in her strange abode of death. To the churchyard at night came the gallant County Paris to lay flowers at the tomb of the young bride who had been so untimely snatched away. His little page kept watch at a distance, while Paris laid the flowers with loving words at the door of the tomb. Sweet flower with flowers thy bridal bed I strew, O woe, thy canopy is dust and stones, with which sweet water nightly I will do, or, wanting that, with tears distilled by moans, the obsequies that I for thee will keep nightly shall be to strew thy grave and weep. Warned by a whistle from the page, Paris retired into the shadow, as other footsteps were heard approaching. Romeo, accompanied by Balthazar, bearing a torch and some tools for opening the vault, now came near, and Paris could hear the instructions Romeo gave his servant. "Give me the mattock and the wrenching iron. Hold, take this letter. Early in the morning see you deliver it to my lord and father. Give me the light. I charge you on your life, whatever you hear or see, stand quite aloof, and do not interrupt me in what I am doing. The reason I descend into this abode of death is partly to behold my lady's face, but chiefly to take from her dead finger a precious ring. Therefore hence, be gone. But if you jealously return to pry into what I further intend to do, by heaven I will tear you joint from joint." "I will be gone, sir, and not trouble you," replied Balthazar, but, all the same, he intended to hide himself somewhere near, for he feared the looks of Romeo, and doubted his intention. When the serving man had retired, Romeo took up the tools, and began to wrench open the door of the tomb. But now Paris came forward to interfere. "This is that banished haughty Montague," he said to himself, "who murdered my love's cousin, out of grief for whom it is supposed she died. Now he has come here to do some villainous shame to the dead bodies. I will seize him. Stop thy unhowled toil, vile Montague. Can vengeance be pursued further than death? Villain, I seize thee. Obey and go with me, for thou must die." "I must indeed, and therefore I came hither," said Romeo. "Good, gentle youth, do not tempt a desperate man. Fly hence and leave me. Think on those who are dead. I beseech thee, youth, do not put another sin on my head by urging me to fury. Oh, be gone! By heaven, I love thee better than myself. Stay not, be gone!" "I defy all thy entreaties," cried Paris hotly, "and seize thee here for a felon." "Wilt thou provoke me? Then have at thee, boy," said Romeo, compelled to draw in self-defence. They fought, and Paris was wounded. "Oh, I am slain," he moaned. "If thou be merciful, open the tomb, lay me with Juliet." "In faith I will. Let me see this face," said Romeo, and he took up the torch to look at the dead man. "Mercutio's kinsman, noble County Paris. What was it my man said when my troubled soul paid no heed to him as we rode hither? I think he told me Paris should have married Juliet. Said he not so? Or did I dream it so? Or am I mad, hearing him talk of Juliet, to think it was so? Oh, give me thy hand, one writ with me in sour misfortune's book. I'll bury thee in a triumphant grave." Taking up the dead body of the gallant youth, Romeo laid it gently inside the tomb. Then all other thoughts faded from his mind, for there, uncovered on the bier, clad in her wedding robes, radiant in all her beauty, lay the young wife from whom he had only parted a few days before. "Oh, my love, my wife!" he sighed. "Death, that hath sucked the honey of thy breath, hath had no power yet upon thy beauty. Ah, dear Juliet, why art thou yet so fair? I will stay here with thee, and never from this palace of dim night depart again. Oh, here I will set up my everlasting rest, and shake the yoke of inauspicious stars from this world-wearied flesh. Eyes, look your last. Arms, take your last embrace. Here's to my love. O true apothecary, thy drugs are quick. Thus, with a kiss, I die." At the further end of the churchyard, Friar Lawrence, with a lantern, crowbar, and spade, was picking his way through the crowded ranks of graves when he stumbled across a friend. This was Balthazar, who told him that Romeo had gone to the Capulet's vault, but from fear of his master, did not dare accompany the friar there. Dreading some fresh misfortune, Friar Lawrence hurried onwards. At the entrance to the vault he was horrified to see fresh stains of blood, and on entering it he found, to his dismay, Romeo lying there beside the bier of Juliet, and Paris newly slain. But there was no time to spare for lament or wonder. Juliet was awakening. "O comforting friar, where is my lord?" she asked, opening her sweet eyes and glancing about a little fearfully at her dreary surroundings. "I remember well where I should be, and there I am. Where is my Romeo?" At this moment a noise was heard outside. Paris's little page had warned the night watchmen of Verona, and they were now approaching. Friar Lawrence implored Juliet to leave the place at once. A greater power than theirs had thwarted their plans. Her husband lay dead beside her, and Paris too was slain. The friar said he would place Juliet in safety among a sisterhood of holy nuns. Only let her come at once. He dared stay no longer. "Go, get thee hence, for I will not go," replied Juliet firmly, and seeing it was useless to attempt to argue with her, Friar Lawrence slipped away. Left alone, for one brief terrified moment Juliet glanced around her, but when her gaze fell on her dead husband, all doubt and hesitation fled forever. "What's here? A cup closed in my true love's hand?" she said, bending over him tenderly. "Poison, I see, has been his untimely end. O churl, drunk all, and left no friendly drop to help me follow thee? I will kiss thy lips, haply some poison yet hangs on them." She leant forward and kissed him, and in the same moment caught sight of the dagger in Romeo's belt. "Thy lips are warm." "Lead, boy, which way?" said the voice of a watchman outside. "Yea, noise, then I'll be brief," said Juliet, snatching the dagger. "O happy dagger, this is thy sheath. There rest and let me die," and she fell back dead on Romeo's body. When the watchman, followed by the Prince of Verona and the parents of the ill-fated lovers, entered the vault, there was nothing to be done. All was over now. The joy and the sorrow, the hatred and the strife. Revenge was silenced. Henceforth the voice of dissension was mute. In the presence of those unseeing witnesses the bitter enemies were reconciled. In this palace of dim night, this dark abode of death, nothing was left now but peace and the abiding memory of undying love.